Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me for another video. Today's video, as the title says, we're doing 6-month impressions. So if you're new here, my name is Brittany Morgan and I currently live in New Zealand with my partner on a working holiday visa from Canada. We've actually been here for 7 months now, but I've been making videos like this since we first moved here and I'll link them above and down below. I've made a first impressions video and a 3-month impressions video. So now we're gonna jump in and see what the changes are and what other opinions I've formed in the last 7 months. To kick this list off, we're going with winter. Winter in New Zealand is amazing. Coming from Canada, coming from -30, -40 Celsius and super windy and snowy conditions, winter in New Zealand is incredible. At least the year that we are here, which is 2023. I don't know if it gets much worse than this though. Everything is still green. The grass is still green. A lot of the trees are still green. And that's just wild to me because we're from an area where everything dies in the fall and really doesn't come back to life until about 6 months later. There are some years back in Calgary where honestly, winter lasted 6 months. Sometimes we would get snow in Canada in September and it wouldn't fully go away until April or May. So it hasn't really felt like we've even been in winter in New Zealand, which is amazing. It's just been such a treat to experience a winter in a country that doesn't get such extreme temperatures and weather. But we still get to see snowy capped mountains. We still get to see the snow on the ground in certain areas. If you're coming from a country that's already like this and doesn't have a full-on horrible winter, it's not going to be a big deal for you. But for me, it's massive because it's just so different than what I've experienced. We spent the winter in New Zealand on the South Island, so it was a little bit rainy here and there, but it was mostly sunny. It did get a little chilly some nights, like down to maybe 0, maybe like -2 or 3 at night. But the days warmed up and it just wasn't that bad. I do think the North Island can be a little more rainy but warmer. So that's something to keep in mind, I guess, if you're coming here. I think visiting New Zealand in the winter is actually an amazing thing to do. Next, I wanted to chat about friendliness. This is something I brought up in my first impressions video in saying that I didn't find New Zealanders as friendly as I was expecting. But I have to say, as we've gone on and been here for about 7 months now, people are just getting friendlier and friendlier. Over time, we've found a few people, a few outliers to be exceptionally friendly. Friendly to the point where I get suspicious of their intentions. Usually when someone is that friendly to you back in North America, they're either trying to get something from you or they want to sell you something. It's not the case in New Zealand, and I do find it's actually a lot of people who have emigrated to New Zealand that are super friendly like this, as well as people who were born and raised here. This is something I really love about New Zealand. If you're here for a longer period of time, people are going to open up to you more and just welcome you into their lives. I think it's really special and really beautiful. And I'm happy to say that it's turned around for me in seeing people as being friendly first instead of not trusting people. That really comes from growing up in North America, where you have to be a little more cautious with strangers because you really don't know their intentions. And it's just not the same here. It's taking a little bit of getting used to for me to just allow myself to trust people more and not assume that they want something. Now I'm going to talk about a point that might be triggering for some of you, but it's just something I've noticed that's completely different than what I'm used to. And that is off-leash dogs. There are many places where you're allowed to have your dog off-leash, especially in the winter. They can run around on certain beaches, they can run around in certain parks and do their thing, and I'm all for that. The weird thing is that a lot of people do not follow the rules in areas where it says that dogs are not allowed off leash or the dogs are just not allowed, period. If your dog is off leash here, you do have to carry the leash or the lead around with you and have control of that dog at all times. But I do find a lot of dog owners here just let their dogs kind of roam around at any point in time. I've seen dogs almost run out into busy streets. I've seen dogs run up to people who clearly are afraid of them. There's lots of small children around on beaches and dogs are running around and doing their thing. And I just think it's a little bit dangerous. The amount of times I've seen dog poop all over public beaches where the owner is like half a mile down the beach and the dog is way far behind it, they're just like not paying attention to their dog whatsoever is kind of disgusting, honestly. And I think that's a big thing with having your dog off leash. If you're going to do it, make sure you're paying attention and watching your dog so that it's not defecating in public spaces where families and children play. Be a good person, you know? I do think New Zealand is very much a dog country. They love dogs here. Almost everybody seems to have a dog, and they just kind of run around and do their thing. Most people will just let their dogs wander the streets on their own. It's like an outdoor cat, but it's an outdoor dog where it's just wandering. I'm not all that afraid of dogs. There are certain dogs that I can be afraid of if they approach me, if they're like running at me and they're a larger dog or something like that. But if you're personally afraid of dogs, you might find this to be a bit of an issue in New Zealand. Another thing is that if you're more of a cat person and not a dog person, New Zealand has an interesting way of looking at cats, specifically feral cats. So the area that I live in right now, Nelson, Tasman, is trying to get something passed that would categorize feral cats as pests, which means that they can trap, hunt, and kill them. There was actually a news article I saw that said that they had a contest for children in rural areas to go out and hunt cats. Seems a little bit strange, but I'll link it down below and I'll put it on the screen here for you guys. New Zealand has a unique way of looking at pests like possums and cats because they target and kill the native birds. What I find strange with this is that dogs are not seen this way. I just saw a news article not that long ago about a dog who killed a kiwi bird on someone's property, and I think the dog was actually put down, which is wild to me because the easiest thing to do is just put your dog either on a leash or make sure that you have it fenced in. In Canada, you're not allowed to have your dog off leash unless you're in a designated off leash dog park. If you're walking around the city, you can't just have your dog off leash because lots of people don't want to interact with your dog. And if your dog approaches another dog that is on a leash, it could cause a huge fight and an attack. Not everyone likes dogs. Next on the list is farmers markets. So we've been to farmers markets in pretty much every area that we've lived in, including Auckland, Christchurch, Nelson, and they're all amazing. Fresh produce, fresh bakeries, butchers, handmade goods, and usually when it comes to produce and fresh foods, it is a little bit cheaper than the grocery store. It's well worth it to plan a farmer's market visit every week to get things like fresh produce. Back home, I do find sometimes that farmers markets can be more expensive than the grocery stores. It's become more of a fad or like a Instagram post worthy place to be instead of going for the actual prices and the deals. Another thing I've noticed in New Zealand that's amazing is that botanic gardens or just gardens in general are everywhere. They're in almost every small city too. They're free to enter usually, and you can just go and walk through the garden and enjoy the beautiful scenery and the plants. We've only seen them in the fall and the winter, so we haven't even seen these gardens at their full potential in the spring and summer, and I can't wait to explore them when they're in full bloom because I think it's just going to be amazing. So because we got here at the end of summer and we've only really been through fall and winter, we have not seen New Zealand at its best in the summer, in the hot months. And we're really looking forward to experiencing it in those seasons because that's when most people travel here and that's when most people see and experience New Zealand. So we think we might actually change a lot of our thoughts and opinions about New Zealand once we've been through the more beautiful months. It is going to be weird to have Christmas here in the summer though. That's definitely something that's going to be a little bit strange, not having snow and not having the cold weather around those holidays. I do actually miss the snow in Canada already. I don't miss the cold though, just the snow. We have been traveling New Zealand over the last 7 months, and now we're only just getting to the point where we're settling in and living a normal everyday life here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how the next 5 months goes and how that changes my perspective on living in this country. I do at this point feel like New Zealand is a perfect retirement country because there's so many things to do outside and you can be outside 12 months out of the year. It would be really easy to have a very active lifestyle in retirement here because so many people love being in the outdoors. There's so many walking pathways, so many hikes. You can get out on the water if you live close to the water. And the last item I have on my 6-month impressions list is that I really do think New Zealand is a vehicle-focused country. It's very hard to get around the country without a vehicle. A lot of the walking pathways are right beside busy roads. I don't like that. I would rather be surrounded by nature if I'm on a walking path. But here it seems like The roads are made first, and then the walking path is just kind of put onto the side of the road. Most of your major lookouts can just be driven to. They're usually pretty big parking lots. So if you're into hiking and you're going to do like a 3-hour hike to get to this amazing lookout, you might find that there's a car park up there and there's already like 50 other people chilling. So you just did this hike to get to this viewpoint when you could have just driven there. There still are many hikes here that are not accessible by vehicle. It's just usually the ones that are your typical lookout spots. You're going to be able to drive there because the country's a little more focused on vehicles rather than pedestrians. Cities like Wellington, of course, have a little more sway to pedestrians, and it's a lot easier to get around on foot. To wrap this up, we are getting towards the end of our working holiday in New Zealand. We have only 5 months left. I cannot believe it's gone by so quickly, but we do have the option to renew for a second year. I'm not entirely sure if we're going to end up doing that or not, but stick with us for the next few months while we figure it out. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment down below about your impressions of New Zealand when you first moved here. I'm curious to know if those impressions changed over time, or if you found since COVID a lot of things have just changed in this country. I'll see you guys really soon in the next video. Bye.